competitive. You know, here's the part about the music industry where most people never see, that most people never get to see. The people behind the artist who shape everything. And today, you're going to hear from one of them. Welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. I'm really excited about this. My guest has spent over 30 years behind the scenes in the music industry, working with some of the biggest names out there, from Beyoncé to Lauryn Hill and the Wu-Tang Clan. She's a creative executive, a storyteller, and the author of Put Your Dreams First. And she's helped shape careers of artists in ways most people never get to see. But today, we're just not talking about the highlights. We're talking about the journey, the lessons, and what people don't always tell you about the music industry. So let's get into it. Please welcome Thembisa Mshaka.
Hi, Kelly.
Girl, this is going to be a real walk down memory lane, okay?
It's so good to be with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my God, I've been waiting for this interview for a long time. You know this, so I'm just so glad that we're able to do this. But before we get started, you know, I thought about it. I was like, now I know bits and pieces about how we met. I remember meeting you at the Glen Park BART station to go
But
to
that was after Shelly Tatum was like, no, you gotta take her on. See, it started out with, who was going to mentor this girl? Because she's too smart and she's young and we got to help her. So you guys kind of went back and forth. And then it was kind of like a mix. In the beginning, I spent a little bit of time with Shelly, but then you ended up being my mentor. So it was like, that's how you ended up picking me up at the BART station.
Okay, because that's what I remember. I remember, getting your call and I'm like, you know what? But I'm on my way. I have a speaking engagement down at Stanford University. And you're like, I want to go. And I'm like, okay, meet me.
And I just jumped in the car with you. That's right.
And we went down there and we did it. And that started our relationship. And weddings.
That was the 80s. That was a long time ago because I got to Mills in 1988.
Okay.
So probably like 89, 90 maybe when we connected.
Right. And then I remember when we all got stuck and I said, and I created that little WHIP program, Women in Progress.
That's right.
Women in Progress. It was me, you, and who else was that? I think it was Rochelle Axel.
Yes.
Rochelle Axel and I think it was just the three of us, really.
No, it was a great accountability group to kind of help us get unstuck.
Yeah.
And I kind of replicated that with writing groups, as my career went on for different projects that I had, the book.
Okay.
And then, other things that I might have been working on, whether that was just being a more consistent journaler, or working on articles, because I'm a journalist as well. So yeah, that model has served me well, being in a collaborative space with people who may or may not be working on the same project as you, but just need the accountability.
Yep.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah. And, and I continue that for a long time. I actually created one with a bunch of PR people where we all work together. So, I've done it in different variations as well. And it really does help people get unstuck.
Yeah, very cool.
It was a great thing. So now, as I think about some of the things that you have done over the years, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a very interesting interview, especially for people that are just getting started. So now, my first question to you is, you've had a 30-year plus career across so many areas. When did you realize you weren't just working in the industry, but you were actually influencing it?
That happened at Gavin.
Okay.
That's when that realization hit me. When I was the rap editor for Gavin.
Okay.
That was 1993 to 1998. And I was responsible for the charts for the rap format, that 300 radio stations, and 30 to 40, I think, record pools reported into across the country every week. That's when I knew that I was influencing the industry, right? And, it gave me the opportunity to shine a light on artists that were not necessarily getting the big label machine pushes, independent artists or artists who I thought were, worth making DJs aware of at that time. And also, I got to spotlight people who worked in the business, people like myself who were behind the scenes, but who, were instrumental in the success of either their radio stations or, the artists that they work with if they were on the label side. And we had so many college and community radio stations that were reporting into Gavin that it was a great way for me to shine a light on people who were making moves within their own communities. So it gave them a national spotlight. And that's when I realized how much power I really had.
And the Gavin, that's a huge, for anybody that doesn't know anything about the music industry or back in that era.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have the conventions all over in different places.
Gavin seminar. And I was the first person to produce an all hip hop based seminar, Sessions Volume 1. And that happened in 1996 in Oakland. And it was a really powerful gathering because we got to see, what was happening with the emergence of artists who had been independent or who had been, regional and successful sort of on local bases, get these major national deals and then experience a different level of success. We saw this with Richie Rich. We saw this with E40. We saw this with Souls of Mischief. And we were able to see, like how it was going for these artists who were based in the Bay, now going out to much wider audiences. And, all three of those artists are still going strong 30 plus years later, which is just, it's amazing.
And do you still keep in touch with many of the artists?
Most definitely. I saw Richie Rich at Yoshi's last year in August.
Okay.
Incredible show, live band. I mean, he was just great.
Yeah.
Love Rich. I haven't talked to 40 in a little bit, but we go back and forth on Instagram. I haven't seen him in person in a while.
Okay.
Souls of Mischief. I went to their 30th anniversary celebration at Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. These are the kind of milestones that like I'm not going to miss because these are my people, Souls of Mischief were discovered at Gavin. I wasn't working there at the time, but they were able to create so much excitement about them from freestyling in the lobby of the St. Francis Hotel.
I remember that one.
Labels started, competing to sign them. And because their father, one of the members of the group, their father was an attorney, he was able to broker the kind of deal where they were able to retain their IP. So, shout out to Michael Ashburn because he got that done. And Souls of Mischief is now, really one of those iconic groups that have a lot of name recognition. Their logo is one of the most recognized in the world. And they're a super group. Hieroglyphics has so many members of the group that do different things and have their own albums. And they've created an incredible ecosystem with their art. And I'm super proud of Souls as well. Yeah.
Oh, girl. I mean, look at you. I'm just so proud. It's like, she says I mentored her. It's like, I did?
Yes. I mean, I am literally, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish much of what I have without your teachings, your insight, and your understanding of how to nurture relationships, how to present oneself in situations, and really how to be confident, when you're talking about following through on the goals that you're setting for yourself, So thank you. That's, I stand on your shoulders. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Now, so tell me this, take me back to the beginning.
Okay.
What on earth drew you into the music and entertainment business in the first place? Let's talk about
that. It's a wild story because I started at Mills as a major in international relations and ethnic studies. I wanted to work in global politics, whether that was as a translator or at the UN or something. I wasn't quite sure, but I needed a job. And so I went over to the Career Center and they had a posting about a paid internship for a booking and management agency in Oakland called De Leon Artists, run by the late Lupe De Leon, who was a manager for the late Etta James. Oh, okay. And he and his partner, Bruce Solar, had this office in Oakland tucked away in Piedmont. And Bruce's main client was the late Gil Scott-Heron. But there were a number of artists that Bruce represented. So Stanley Turrentine, Shirley Horn, Junior Walker, the late Willie Colon, who we just lost, I believe, like a few months ago. And then, um, we would do non-exclusive deals with like Bootsy Collins. And so it was just a great training ground to work with some of these legendary artists
Oh,
who didn't necessarily have to put an album out in order to tour. In
okay.
fact, they toured more than they recorded. And I was the office and contracts manager for De Leon artists until, he and Bruce parted ways. And then I went with Bruce and he set up shop in San Francisco. And so I was working with him on his roster of clients. And he kept a lot of the artists, like he kept Gil and he kept some of the jazz artists, and then he added other people. Like he started managing Cake, and he started working with more folk and blues artists, and so it was just awesome to defend their writers, collect their money. I was underage, but I was in the club collecting
Okay.
money for the artists
Okay.
because I don't collect the money, you don't get a show. That's just how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of club owners had to look the other way because I wasn't even supposed to be in there, right? I mean, fortunately, I wasn't drinking because I just wasn't my thing, but I was not supposed to be there, but they couldn't help that the person that Bruce had sent was 18, 19. So it was what it was. So that's how I got bit by the music industry bug, was that I wound up in an internship. And I highly recommend that. I feel like, you know, mentoring and interning and apprenticeship are super, super important because so much of the business is a people business, is a hands-on business. I mean, right now AI is all the rage,
Yeah.
but entertainment is a people business. AI can maybe help you with some tools or, help you with some administrative stuff. And you see now that there's this sort of split of opinion around how AI is affecting creative, right? And that's a separate conversation. But in terms of why I'm still here after 30 plus years, it's because of my relationships and because I've nurtured those relationships. And I can go anywhere in the country and pretty much the world because I'm 1 degree away from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful place to
So,
be. Wow. That's awesome. So now you've worked on campaigns for artists like Beyonce and Lauryn Hill. Has there ever been a moment in your career where you had to choose between integrity and opportunity? And if so, what'd you do?
so this story, it predates working with L Boogie and B. It's from when I was at Gavin,
Okay.
and we had artists coming through the Bay all the time on promo tour. Um, Outcast was coming. They were new to the business. They had a single out on a compilation. I think it was LaFace Family Christmas. The record was Players Ball. So I feel like this might be 93, 92. So I don't know what year. So maybe
Yeah.
94. I just started at Gavin. I was new.
Okay.
Um, they did a showcase at the DNA Lounge, unrelated to Gavin. But my good friend Shanti Das was their label rep at LaFace, and she was like, I need a good club that has a big capacity because this record is doing really, really well in the Bay, and we want them to have a nice showcase. All right, cool. So Anthony Daughtry and I, who was their street promotion rep, their local rep in the Bay, and I secured the DNA Lounge. There was nothing about my job at Gavin that precluded me doing, other kind of stuff. So
Oh, nice.
nobody cared. But the integrity piece and the opportunity piece comes from the DNA Lounge switching up the terms on the bar split, right, versus the door split when they saw the Outcast pack that room.
Okay.
They wanted the door, and we were like, cool, but we'll take, a little bit of the door and most of the bar. And normally they would do the reverse, but they didn't think a lot of people would come.
Ah,
So
okay.
so when it packed out, they were like, "Oh, there's way more people in here drinking than we thought because there's a hell of people in here." So then they flipped it on us and they kind of jerked us. I don't like DNA still exists, but I'm sure the people who were dealing with us then are gone. So I don't mind telling this story. I've actually told it before, but not in this detail. So Um, Anthony and I are like, okay, we only have $400 after all of that because they switched the splits on us, right? So, and you know, we weren't gonna argue about it because at the end of the day, we wanted the label to be happy and we wanted Outkast to be happy, and they were happy because when I tell you that place was packed to the gills and they only had one song out,
Oh,
so
wow.
it was just like incredible, right?
Mhm.
So, um, we got upstairs, we went to the guys. AD and I had this conversation. We said, you know what? We only have $400. It's not a lot of money. I mean, I guess it was a lot back then, but we still felt like we had gotten gypped. And it was true. We had. You know, we just decided that we were going to, instead of pocketing it ourselves and splitting it, that we were just going to pay Outcast.
Okay, nice.
Because Shanti was like, I'm happy. We got what we came for. You know, this is before social media and smartphones and whatever. So, you know, it was like about the press coverage and also just about the word of mouth of like it was so huge and still photography going into the trades and all of that, right? So AD and I said, you know, um, Andre, big boy, we want to actually just give you the money we made from this. Now,
Hmm.
this was a promo show for them, so they weren't expecting to get paid at all. And the way their faces lit up when we gave them that $400 cash, they
Oh.
were just like, wait, this is crazy. Like, we're actually making money right now. We were told we weren't going to get it. And, you know, we just slid it to them like on some like, look, we just want to take care of you guys. You did an amazing performance. Like, we're so happy that you came. We're so happy you were well received. We knew we could pack the place for you because between our networks and between what the radio stations were doing with the record, we knew people were going to come out. It was just the DNA Lounge didn't really believe in hip hop shows being as popular as
They
rock or
were,
punk
yeah.
shows at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we gave them their first paid show with their DNA Lounge appearance. And then, you know, it was a little bit of a full circle moment because by the time I was Lauren's writer at Sony, she was mounting her tour for Miss Education, and Outkast was her opening act.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Don't you? I
Yeah.
love full circle moments. I've had a few
Yeah,
in
I
the
do
music
too.
industry. That it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I'm still, you know, I'm still very close to Shanti. We talk regularly, and of course, whenever I see the guys, it's all love, you know. But I have so many artists that I've watched go into the stratosphere that, you know, all I can do is just smile. I'm just so proud of what everyone's been able to do, and to just be a part of their trajectory in any way is a blessing.
See, that's how I feel about you.
Oh, see, yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. When I see you, I'm just like, this woman has done some amazing work, and you guys are going to get to hear a little bit more. So now tell me, what does a great campaign actually require that most people don't see?
Okay, this is a great question. What does a campaign require that a lot of people don't see? Well, the parts that you see are sort of those obvious things that face the consumers, right? The TV spots, the radio spots, the stuff you see in transit, on subways or on buses, bus stations, whatever. You know, paid social ads on websites. But really, what you need are two things. You need a solid pod of creatives who are helping to churn all of these things out. And
Hmm.
so during my Sony days and to a large degree during my time at BET, it would be myself as the writer or editorial director, a design director, a broadcast designer, or an art director. And then there would be writer producers. So I would either be overseeing the campaign work or, you know, there would be a writer who would be assigned to a particular property. At Sony, I was the copywriter for, you know, all of my artists. But when it comes to the network, there's so many properties that you had multiple writer producers, and then I would oversee their work. I would give notes on scripts, you know, kind of interrogate like, what is the storytelling here? How can we make it better? How can we make it sing off the page? I would direct voice talent, you know, make sure that the campaign is continuous and consistent as well as compelling, right? So that's all the stuff that you don't see in terms of the other team members that are involved in bringing it to life. So you might see an image of one person on a poster, but there are, you know, upwards of 50 people who are part of a department or a division or third party vendors who are creating that one thing that you're looking at. The
Okay.
second thing that is necessary that people don't see, this really more applies to my direct relationship with the artists at Sony Music. The thing that you really need for a campaign to be successful that you don't see is trust. The artist, or the holder of the product, whether that's a client of a company that's bringing a brand to market,
Okay.
or the artist, in which case they're the brand and the product they're bringing to market is the album. They have to trust that you are going to be able to convey the message to market their product that doesn't sell them out. Speaking about integrity, just in the interest of selling records, you really want to be as true to what the artist is trying to share with the audience at that time as you possibly can.
Mm.
And the reason I was able to do multiple campaigns for these artists is because the trust was there. I did
Okay.
8 campaigns with Nas, and we got to the point where um, I could just text him the scripts for the voiceover for his TV spots, his radio spots, because he got to a certain point in his career where he didn't want anyone else voicing his campaigns. He wanted to be the voice for them. So, he just trusted me to write it. I would send it to him via pager at that time. And he would take that to Sony Studios or D&D Studios. He would record it and he would send it back on a DAT. And
Okay.
he would record it a number of times, and then we'd take it, edit it, chop it up, and do the spot, because he was always on the move. So, if the trust isn't there, that kind of creativity doesn't get to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't trying to rewrite my scripts either. Like, we had gotten to a point where I understood his voice, I understood what would work, and I also understood what would get approved by the label. And so we had a really great rhythm going. So trust is key in order for the campaign to be successful. And then on top of that, you need a solid team who can deliver on everything that we need to bring out to market.
Now, so tell me this, because this sounds like a whole lot of hours, number one.
Yes.
And number two, how many a day do you do? Like, how many campaigns can you do in a day?
So it's really more like projects, right? So you're working on a number of campaigns at a time based
Okay.
on the release schedule, whether that's music product or, television shows, launches, weekly topical promos, etc. So, for example, at Sony, I would be working on anywhere from 8 to 12 album campaigns at a time. I worked
Oh,
on over 100 campaigns in a 6-year period. So, I in a typical day, I would be, writing a radio spot for Bow Wow, or writing a TV spot for Jill Scott or Maxwell, and then I would turn around and I would do the stickers for the white labels for the vinyl for Wu-Tang, or for Violator's latest compilation, or I would do an ad where there's like critics raves or something for Destiny's Child or for 3-6, so it would just be that kind of like mix of requests on a daily basis. As far as the network, I myself, just as for writing and not just what we would call copy requests, things that
okay.
I would have to fulfill on myself. This is apart and away from managing, 6 or 7 writer producers. I'd have over 900 requests a year.
Whoa. Whoa.
And some of them take a day and some of them take 3 weeks, but
It just depends.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about, and I didn't even put these in my questions, you also, now you're doing all of this stuff, but you're also a voiceover actor.
That's right. Yep.
So talk to me a little bit
In
about
New
that.
York, you got to have a side hustle, like the affordability crisis has been real before, long before Mamdani got here. I'm happy he's here, but he just said the quiet part out loud. So
Okay.
everybody here is working multiple jobs, unless you're, making $500,000 or more, and maybe even then you're still, trying to add to it, but that was not my case. So I've been a working actor since my Sony days because I got discovered by doing a voiceover for Destiny's Child, the Bootylicious commercial for the new single.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just continue to do that. I got a McDonald's commercial about donating to breast cancer awareness, and from there I became a union actor because that was a union job.
Okay.
And then I ended up voicing for networks as the voice of the network, a Smithsonian Channel, for example. Oxygen, Lifetime. I
Wow.
went on to do a ton of sports announcing. Shout out to my sports announcing mentor, Rod Houston. So he's like the king of sports. Like he does the NBA Finals, the Golf Channel. Um, he's done a lot of work, NFL stuff. So he taught me everything I know about sports announcing. And so
Oh, that's
I've
beautiful.
done, promos for the women of Team USA for the Tokyo Olympics. I was the voice of the New York Liberty for the 20th season for MSG Networks. And I was the voice of the WNBA just for the league overall in 2018, I think. Can't remember what year, but I love doing sports stuff. It's I'm a sports chick, so I love it, and then it's just a good time. So yeah, and then I went on to doing live announcing for events for like galas and live shows and things of that nature, what they call the voice of God. So that's a fun job too.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The interesting thing that I'm glad you kind of touched on it, because a lot of people think because you have access to all of this stuff in the music industry and all of
And
this,
these famous
it's
people.
right, that you got to be rich, that you're rich. And
Right.
you talked about, hey, I got more side hustles than you probably, so I appreciate you letting people know that it's not what it seems to be.
Yeah, and then I'm also still very active as a journalist. I write about culture, I do op-eds, and I do long form articles as well. So, that's another area where, I'm in the world working. Like
Yeah,
that also helps keep me sharp as a writer.
yeah,
So I don't want to let go of that, because it allows me to keep my pen sharp and to be thinking deeply about some of these things where we're in a world of knee-jerk reactions and posting just what you feel at that moment and for the likes and the shares and the whatever, but it may not be factually accurate or
sure.
anything more than someone's opinion, right? An opinion is not fact. And
Yeah,
so that's kind of where we get into the confusion around what is journalism and what is social media activity. They're not the same.
yeah. Now let's talk about your book.
Okay.
Let's talk about your book.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Some
how did
good things
that?
happening with that.
Okay, talk to me about it.
So, Put Your Dreams First, Handle Your Entertainment Business is the definitive entertainment industry guide that centers women. I interviewed over 90 different women about their triumphs, tools, and tactics within the business. So, it is a business title. I put it out almost 17 years ago. And now the second edition of the book is in post production, and hopefully it will come out this year. Keeping that original book intact because it's out of print now, and the information in it really needs to be carried forward for these generations of creatives who are still interested in the business, even as the business and the technology of the business change. A lot of the things that I predicted in the book or that people I interviewed spoke about in the book still hold up. So as an idea of who's in the book, Michelle Ndegeocello, Monique, Kathy Hughes, Yvette Nolsher, who's Beyonce's publicist, Lisa Cortez, who's now an award-winning filmmaker and director, Mimi Valdez, who's also an award-nominated, she's an Academy Award-nominated producer for Hidden Figures. I talked to a lot of women who are behind the scenes and then some more, well-known folks as well. And Chuck D said that it's the definitive entertainment industry Bible. So once he said
Oh,
that,
how
I was
nice.
like,
Okay,
okay,
let me
pop my
ride this
collar a little
baby.
bit. Because a lot of men actually read and enjoyed the book and got a lot of value from it.
Okay.
Because the women didn't need to hold back
Yeah.
because they don't ever get asked these questions anyway, right? They didn't need to give the pat answer or the cliche answer because they
Mhm.
weren't trying to gatekeep. They said what needed to be said. And so I wanted that information to live on. So once I got the global rights reverted back to me, I moved to re-release the book. So that's happening in 2026. Super
Oh,
excited about that. I
congratulations.
added,
That's
thank you. I
awesome.
added some updates so that people knew where the women who are in the book are 15, 16 years later, like what they've been up to.
Oh, nice. Very
And then I
nice.
just added a new intro. But aside from that, it's the same book with a new cover.
Okay.
Definitely a different cover. So
Okay. Wow. Congratulations on that. Now,
thank you.
so tell me this, for creatives trying to break into the industry today, what are they getting wrong about the business and how it really works?
Well, the entertainment industry has this entirely new branch now of the tree, and that is social and digital.
Hmm.
So for the creators out there who are now influencers or who are people who are literally making all their income producing content for these platforms, I think that what they're getting wrong is most likely related to the misinformation and the disinformation, right? I think it's very important to share one's opinion, but also to bring the receipts. If you're in the business of trying to tell people something other than you just sharing your point of view, because that's kind of like vlogging, right? Just
Okay.
saying what you have to say on camera. Okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. But if you're trying to be some sort of a credible source, then there needs to be some level of research and information that's rooted in, factual
Actual.
data,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is important for people to know is that these platforms are now moving to secure IP ownership from their users. So if you're going to engage with these platforms, you got to know that the stuff you put up there, you're not going to necessarily be the sole owner on. If you read these terms and conditions for some of these platforms, whether it's TikTok or, Meta or what have you, like they're saying that, just because you put it up here and this is a delivery system, that now, you're going to have to cede or share ownership. And so I think that's something to be thoughtful about in terms of what you post. Yeah, you got to be okay with whatever you put up there not necessarily being solely owned by you or controlled by you. We do know now that these social media posts are forever. These tweets resurface when people are trying to do things and they haven't aged well, and then they end up getting quote unquote canceled, right? Or losing endorsements or losing opportunities. And so I would say that it's important to be mindful about, how you're posting and what you're saying, and knowing that it's forever, and also recognizing that these companies see the value of what you're doing and they want a piece of it. I
Yeah.
mean, Prince talked about this, God rest his soul. He said, listen, what do I look like paying the delivery system the equivalent of what I should be making for making the thing? That's like paying FedEx the same amount of money, for what I would command at a concert just because they're delivering the thing to you. Like, I'm not doing that. Right.
Yeah.
So now the platforms, the delivery systems, they want ownership. And you have
Wow.
to decide how you're going to move through that as a content creator and whether or not you're going to own your own IP and do it through platforms where, you know, you can actually benefit from it. So it seems like that's kind of the future of this, is that the IP piece is never going to be fully owned by the user. So you have to pick those platforms where that is the case, and there are fewer and fewer of those now. A lot of them are changing their terms of service.
See, now you know what, girl. Anyways, and you mentioned Meta first because I'm watching them and how it's changed on Facebook so much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where it used to just be friends talking to friends and whatnot, and now
Right.
it's all this. I don't even see my friends hardly anymore. It's
Yeah,
mom
the
and Jeff.
algorithm is
Oh
is
yeah, it's
definitely changing how we engage. It's all focused on consumerism.
yep,
It's very different. So
yeah, yeah.
that's something that I definitely think about. I would say too that in terms of the business itself, it continues to be a people-driven business. Relationships need to be nurtured. There needs to be reciprocity. There needs to be respect, because that person that you're going to see on the way up will most likely meet you when you're on your way down,
Yeah, yeah,
or you'll pass them on your way down,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, the mutual respect, the kindness, just general good human behavior is encouraged. And we've seen that a lot of the monstrous behavior that's come to light from, people who were seen as leaders or as, pillars within these communities are now facing consequences, right? So nurture your relationships and take care of your people, because at some point you're going to need that same kind of grace and care, and they're going to remember how you treated them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks don't like when an artist is having a bad day or whatever, and they dismiss some artist that wants some fan who wants a selfie or who wants an autograph or something. The artist never remembers how they treated that fan, but the fan
Oh,
carries
they
that
definitely
experience with
remember.
them
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
until you get the rare opportunity, and it usually never happens, to have an encounter with them again and clean it up with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, this is something that people forget about. And artists are human. And this is really what's carried me through the business, is knowing that they're human and treating them like human beings. Right.
Right.
But when you're on and when you're in the world and you're interfacing with the people who support you and who've brought you to the level of prominence that you enjoy, that bad day doesn't matter to those people.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and you have to weigh the cost of being a jerk to them and doing that consistently and repeatedly over time. And like, that compound interest doesn't necessarily work in their favor.
Yeah. Wow.
And then people who work behind the scenes don't want to work with you either.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, your reputation gets out there.
that's right. Your reputation is currency. I say
So,
that in the book.
what's something about the music industry that people don't want to say out loud but really needs to be said?
Oh, I'm the right person for this question. So the quiet part out loud, and then more and more people are starting to say this, is that these DSPs, digital service providers, Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, etc., that these streaming rates, I mean, it goes across all these platforms. These streaming rates are worse than sweatshop labor. We used to talk about how bad it was for fashion companies that were outsourcing all of this
Right.
manufacturing to these countries and having these people work in these sweatshops, and they had no rights and they weren't making any money, and it was just inhumane conditions. It's literally worse than that, but using ones and zeros, because all of the DSPs are able to set their own rates for what they're going to pay artists. And
Okay.
they can play the shell game as much as they want, because there's no mandate to be transparent about what each artist is making in terms of streams and downloads, and they can change the rates at any time.
Wow.
This is an unregulated part of the business. And until Congress takes this seriously and brings their royalty rate to the level of terrestrial radio and network television, we're never going to get what I call digital media equity. We're never going to get that. So if you're a podcaster, or you're a recording artist, or you're someone who is putting these things on the DSPs, you know, people are not getting accountings. They're not getting, accurate information. When they try to find out what they're making, they get stonewalled. There's just a lot of uh, exploitation in the worst way when it comes to, using this product and then making money on it on multiple sides of the table, and cutting the creator, the source of that IP, out of those revenue streams. So take, for example, your typical DSP, they have advertising revenue that they receive. If we're talking about, music DSPs, labels are also investors in these companies now. So the
Okay.
label, which was
Wow.
supposed to be the advocate for the artist, is now an investor in the DSP that's cheating them on, an equitable rate. So
Never ending.
so it doesn't really behoove them to help the artists get better rates,
Right.
because they're making money as investors. And then you have the subscriber piece of their revenue model. So, I think Spotify has like 200 million subscribers. They're paying whatever they're paying per month as individuals. And of those multiple millions and probably into the billions, they're not sharing any of that with the artists.
Yeah.
So,
So
okay,
who's in Congress fighting?
I should get money for streams and downloads, but I should also be sharing in the revenue from your advertising that you're pulling in, because they're only advertising because the music is here. And I should be getting a portion of the subscriber revenue as well as an artist, because they're subscribing so that they can have access to this diverse offering of audio products. And
Yeah.
I'm part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how large or how small, there should be money set aside for that to be equal, equitably distributed based on the performance of those artists. And then that incentivizes, anybody who's on these platforms to perform better on them. But then we got to talk about the shadow farms that boost the streams and the bot streams and the fake streams. And so,
Right.
the game is like rigged on so many levels to the detriment of the
Yes.
artists. Like,
Wow.
this has to stop. And when artists complain to Spotify, it doesn't matter because there's no mandate. They need to be directing that ire to Congress, to their
And that's what that was my next question to
in the
you.
House and the Senate, because only Congress can change these laws. They're the ones that have set the royalty rates for network TV and for terrestrial radio.
But who are the people fighting for that?
FTC. Well, the people fighting for that should be House reps and should be senators. But, and this speaks to a larger problem when it comes to policy relating to entertainment. They think what you mentioned earlier, that everybody's rich. And so it's not a priority. And, just because you have to present a certain way as an artist to actually come to market doesn't mean that they're wealthy.
Right, right.
So, and if we look at these streaming rates, they're not set up to actually even have a living wage, much less be able to pass on any generational wealth. So, or to retire on. And so this is a problem. What I think needs to happen is that DSPs need to be designated as hybrid media companies, and then they will be subject to FCC oversight, and then they will have to adhere to the same rate structure as network television and terrestrial radio.
Wow.
But, you being mad at Spotify for cheating you out of your rates is a fool's errand. You need to actually lobby Congress. And when I say you, I mean individuals who are voting constituents, but I also mean unions. I also mean, handlers, managers, agents, people who represent these folks who are doing these podcasts and who are making these records, because you can't count on the labels to support them, because the labels are in bed with the DSPs. And that's the quiet part out loud. A lot of people don't realize that the labels are investors, because they were so attached to brick and mortar retail that they got left out of the digital race when, Napster and LimeWire gave way to Apple Music, what we now know is Apple Music, right? Yeah. So instead of building their own platforms, which they could have taken their own websites and added an e-commerce features and sold their music through their own websites. Instead of doing that, they allowed for tech companies to become the new brick and mortar.
Wow.
And I talk about this in the book. And this is why the book has to stay out there.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, some real knowledge, girl. So now you've worn so many hats: marketing, voiceover, writing, film. How do you stay grounded? How did you stay grounded?
Well, I am a person who believes in God. And so, my faith, I'm a Muslim woman, is definitely a grounding source for me. I'm also very much grounded by my family. My parents have passed on, God rest their souls, but I have a really big, loving family, lots of siblings, lots of cousins, aunts, uncles, etc. And so for me, remembering who I was and the love that was poured into me before I came into this business is very grounding. And it's what I always go back to. My mom used to always say, let the work speak, but don't be defined by any title or any job.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not whatever the job says you are. You're who you are when you come into the job, right?
Yeah.
So that's been super grounding. I'm also a Sagittarius, so I love to travel. There's always a beach bag ready. There's always a
Okay.
carry-on ready. I just came back from Kenya. I did a digital version of the arts exhibition that I'm working on, Hip Hop Beauty circa 1973 in Nairobi. So we just had our first international exhibition. But yeah, travel, spa, fresh air. I love to walk. Those types of things just really help me, time with my kids. I
Yeah.
mean, one of them is an adult now. Mecca's 26 and my daughter will be 15 soon.
Is Mecca 26?
He done moved out the house
How
in
old is Yogi?
2023. Umi will be 15 in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Wow. Isn't that?
So I try to get them together. Their schedules are crazy.
Yeah.
You would think I had the crazy schedule, but no, it's them.
Yeah.
So I try to get them together and do stuff with them. Mother's Day is coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's just being with my kids. That's really it. Quality time, one on one with my friends. I love that. I'm big on brunch. All these things
You
ground
know
me.
what?
I
Speaking.
love going to dinner because I usually am the one cooking. And so it's
Okay.
great to take a break from that with some fine dining. My favorite places here in New York are Bar Mercer and Lore. Shout out to Preston Clark, the chef and culinary director for both of those places. His team there, they always take the very best care of me. And yeah, you could, on a weekend, you're going to find me at Bar Mercer brunch. Okay. That's basically what's happening.
What I think that was the last time I saw you when you were here. I went to a brunch with you.
That's right. We had tacos. We were in the
Right.
Bay and we were having brunch.
Oh, it
See,
was
exactly.
wonderful. And you had a group, all of your girlfriends,
That's
all at
right.
the table. It was wonderful.
And
Absolutely.
that's usually how I have to do it because I'm parachuting in and I'm running out, right? So it's like, okay, this is the date, this is the time, this is the food.
Yeah.
Whoever can make it, come on, and then we all get a chance to see each other. So yeah.
Now, so tell me, what are you working on now?
So now I'm working on Hip Hop Beauty circa 1973. So this is the arts and culture experiential ecosystem that I've co-founded with Ashinta Sharif Kendricks, who is the founder of Ashinta Sharif Beauty. She and I have been friends for over 20 years. We've been working on this IP for that long. We secured the trademark last year, and then we launched at Art Basel. So it's got three components to it. It's an art exhibition that celebrates the beauty aesthetic as expressed through hip hop culture. And so we have photographers that have been documenting the beauty of women in hip hop and, models and just the aesthetic in general from, sort of ancestral hair art from Stacey Gray to celebrity photography from Mozzie Smozzie and Keith Major. We've got photography that features Janelle Monáe, Erykah Badu, DJ Spinderella, Doja Cat, Lauryn Hill is in the exhibition.
Oh, wow.
And there are pieces that have never been available for sale until now. So we're creating a new generation of art collectors. And then we're also creating a safe space for women who love and participate in hip hop culture to be able to enjoy the ecosystem. So sometimes we'll have a panel discussion. Other times we might have a fashion presentation like we did at Art Basel. And the idea is to travel it and scale it. So that's what we're working on now. And we are going to have our next events on the West Coast. We've done Miami, New York Fashion Week, and Nairobi, as I spoke about earlier. And now we're coming home for me back to Cali. So,
Let me know
well,
when you come.
oh, I got you. So the dates are already set. So we're going to be at the Pashal Hunter Gallery in Oakland from August 1st to September 6th. Shout out to Kelly Pashal for hosting us. We're super excited about that. And the opening day reception is going to be on August 1st. We're going to do brunch, of course. But prior to that, we're going to be in Los Angeles during BET Awards Week. We're collaborating with culture creators and we are exhibiting in Los Angeles during that same week at the end of June. So
Okay.
if people want to know more about what Hip Hop Beauty is up to, they should follow us on Instagram. We don't have a Facebook presence at the moment. But the Instagram is official hip hop beauty, all spelled in the King's English. So yeah,
That is awesome.
things happening.
So now tell me this. How long did you work with BET?
I was there for 20 years and I was their editorial director. So I was responsible for the brand essentially in terms of how it showed up in the world. So from a storytelling and a language place, so that whether that was corporate communication, sort of overseeing, making sure that the marketing conversation that any of the press releases had was accurate and was consistent with, the naming conventions and the things that, we internally had agreed should go to market,
Okay.
or overseeing what you would see on the screen. What's the bug in the corner? What's the ticker of information that's running across? What's happening with the promos in between? All of that editorial, all the stuff that you would hear voice actors saying, all the words that you would be reading, all of the BET remembers for our fallen legends and icons
Oh, wow.
across BET, VH1, BET Her, BET Jams, BET Soul, and I also was the lead editorial executive on BET Plus. So I wrote the interface, I did the user experience for BET Plus, and then made sure that the brand guidelines for BET Mother Brand were adhered to by Paramount in all of those meetings. So
Wow.
yeah, helped to create BET Plus in 2019 and
Okay.
then to oversee the launch of the campaign from an editorial place as well. So whether it was BET Awards, BET Experience, Black Girls Rock, Being Mary Jane, New Edition Story, Tales, I mean, it goes on and on, Real Husbands of Hollywood, seeing the outdoor advertising, the radio spots you heard, if you heard, your favorite morning show host reading, stuff about what BET was up to, chances are I wrote it or approved it.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Now, this leads to this question. What do you want your legacy to be when it comes to both the culture and the business?
Well, I definitely have come to accept myself as an architect of the modern rap industry and a shifter and a shaper of hip hop culture. I'm also a steward of the culture. And so, I'm a board member for the Hip Hop Museum. We're super excited about the museum opening in the Bronx this year. As you know, I was inducted into the Bay Area Hip Hop Archives, literally on the 50th birthday of hip hop
Oh, beautiful.
in Oakland. So I don't take these accolades lightly, and I it's very important to me that the history and that the record are set and kept about who invented the beauty looks that we now see being appropriated today. Who are the bricklayers of hip hop culture as we see it being practiced all over the world, whether that's breakers in Japan or K-pop artists literally, taking on the core elements of TLC for, K-pop demon hunters. Like it's very important for folks to remember that this is an American art form that was invented by Black and Brown people,
Okay.
right? And so I'm deeply committed to making sure that that never gets lost in the sauce. And so that's what hip hop beauty is about. But that's what my work in general is about. And of course, I've always been a big proponent of artist advocacy. So I'm always on the side of the artist. I want the artists to win. I want them to be able to, be compensated fairly and, in a way that they can thrive and they can pass things on to their children and generations to come from them. Like, they shouldn't have to be starving to be artists.
Right.
Like the starving artist thing, I want to eradicate that. I want people to be able to like make a living and more, be financially free while being artists. It shouldn't just be this afterthought or this throwaway. And it's something that I feel is missing within the federal government is having that representation at the secretary table. We have a secretary of energy, transportation, labor, all the things, but we don't have a secretary of culture. And American culture is very rich and very robust, whether we're talking about indigenous culture, culture of the descendants of the enslaved Africans who were brought here against their will, whether we're talking about, the cultures of the Southwest from the territory formerly known as Mexico, whether we're talking about Appalachian culture, like who is
Yeah.
defending us
Yeah.
at that table?
Yeah.
No one. When you go to other places, they have ministers of culture. America does not have that, but we got 340 million people here. And we have people who are completely laser focused on an entertainment and attention economy. And so technology is outpacing legislation, and that is a problem.
Yeah.
But we don't have anybody at the federal level at that table speaking for us as artists.
Wow.
I mean, if I could be the minister of culture, I would love to be appointed the minister of culture or
Well,
the
that's
secretary
what
of
I'm getting
culture.
ready to say. Let's
It
send
ain't
you to
happening under
Congress.
this regime, but once they gone,
We're gonna send you. We're gonna
let's
send you
talk.
to Congress. We're gonna send you to Congress so you can go ahead and go and represent, girl. Because
I
you.
mean, I wish they would ask me to come and testify because I feel like they're asking the wrong questions of the wrong people. Like, stop asking these famous people to come talk to you about stuff because they don't really understand. They're not in the weeds like that.
Yeah.
Unless there's somebody who's literally doing it. Like Tyler Perry, he
Yeah.
understands it because he's actually doing it.
So maybe you should have a
But
conversation with him.
I mean, I would love to talk to Tyler Perry about these things. I feel like um it's so important
Yeah.
for artists of every level of business to be heard on this. And so I feel like there needs to be a think tank or some huge survey. Like there needs to be some real work done talking to the everyday artists, whether that's recording engineers or content creators or voiceover actors or whomever, about what their real concerns are when it comes to the financial piece of this. Because everyone is getting shafted. Everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Ooh, girl. Well, you know what? I have a funny feeling that you're not going to let this die. You're going to keep at
No,
it, and
no.
you're
Digital
going
media
to make some
equity is
headways.
something
You're going
that
to make some
I
headways, and keep me posted because if I need to be pulled on a board, let me know, girl, because it's ridiculous. So,
yeah.
finally, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone listening right now who's ready to take themselves seriously into the industry?
I would say read the book. I would say put your dreams first, handle your entertainment business. I would also say, in general, read the great books of the canon about the industry. I mean, the late great Kashif wrote a great book about the music business, everything you need to know about the music industry, I think it's called.
Yeah, that is.
Um, Donald Passman is probably on his 1,000th edition of, his book, but it's got great foundational tools. There's so many books now that are written by authors that really talk about the contributions of artists over time. Clover Hope's Motherlode is a favorite of mine. Dr. Shanita Hubbard has written Ride or Die, which is, a really great series of essays around Black women and their relationship to hip hop. Of course, you have Joan Morgan's When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost. That's a classic. That's how we get hip hop feminism as an idea. So, like there's lots of material out there. If you don't want to, sit and flip pages, then do the audiobooks, but get the knowledge. I also feel like it is really important to work alongside people and learn as you earn, if you will. So
Hmm.
again, mentoring, internships, apprenticeships, take the time to get experiential learning in the fields that you want to be in, because that does two things. It shows you what the field looks like, and then it also gives you the opportunity to decide whether it's really what you want, because you need to get into it a little bit to decide, is this what I want to do? When you're doing it, it lights you up or it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what
And
happened
it
to
becomes
me.
very clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So
Hmm.
I definitely encourage people to do that. And this is again why the people part of this is always going to be more important than the technological part of it. Because what if, in 10 or 15 years, everyone decides that we're seeing the pendulum swing back now to using physical formats? whether that's CDs or vinyl. Like, what if everybody decides 15 years from now, when they're tired of the earth burning from these data centers? I mean, hopefully it doesn't take 15 years because we can already see that they're poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
But, if we never get clean AI legislation, what if everyone decides, you know what? I actually am okay doing these things and spending a little more time if it means that, my community's not going to be stripped of all its environmental health, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, you're going to have to go back to what? Operating with people,
Yeah.
talking to people, trusting people, communicating with people, doing business with people. And the people skills are what you're going to need to lean on the most.
Yeah. And yeah, people skills important, folks. Thembisa, this was incredible. So I know this was a very powerful conversation. Thembisa Mshaka reminds us that success doesn't just happen in the spotlight.
Mm.
It's built behind the scenes with intention, knowledge, and courage. If there's one thing to take away from today, learn the business, trust your voice, and don't be afraid to put your dreams first.
Hey,
So
I like
thank you
it.
so much for joining me on Straight Talking with Kelly.
Yes, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thanks again.
I knew it was going to be like this. I knew it was going to be just wonderful. So I'm just so proud of you. And I know there's more to come. And the passion that you spoke about with, really trying to make equity possible for all creatives. I know you're not going to let that die. I know,
Mm-mm.
because your passion is there. And I hope Tyler Perry or some other people out here hear this.
Or,
And
members of Congress, like, some of these politicos really need to take this up because it's not going to go away as a pain point. And what we're dealing with is affordability for artists.
yeah,
That's really what it translates to.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, so I really am so grateful that you came and dropped so many serious knowledge. The other thing that I really appreciated is that you talked about some of the old school books. And
mm,
I'm happy to hear that they're still relevant, girl, because I got a
oh,
bookshelf full of them. You know?
yes, yes. And I refer back to them sometimes, and they're
Yeah,
dog-eared, or I got
yeah.
notes in the corners. Like,
Hmm.
a lot of this stuff still holds up because
That's
the
beautiful to
delivery
know.
systems may change, right? But the core functions remain the same.
Okay, I'm so
So,
glad you said that. So maybe I'll create a book list on my
oh,
site for some of the
yeah,
people because I have
yeah.
some
And I
incredible
hope a
books.
lot of them are on audiobook because a lot of people consume that way now. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
great
But just
idea.
giving them the titles just so they can see the titles. But
Hmm.
again, I just want to thank you, and I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yes, we'll see each other in the Bay because
Yes,
Hip Hop
that's
Beauty is
definitely.
coming. So
Hmm.
super
Um,
excited about that.
right. So for those of you who are listening, if you like this conversation, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and come back. And I'll see you in the next episode. So thank you again, Thembisa, for making this a wonderful, wonderful show.
Thank
Okay.
you.